This video was made possible thanks to our fantastic patrons. Yes, all of these lovely people right here. You guys are truly wonderful. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Full of Love Commander video brought to you by Affinity for Commander. My name is Alex and today we're going to be looking at the new legendaries from the set Theros Beyond Death. In this video we'll be looking at just the mono-coloured legendary creatures, with the next video looking at the multicoloured ones. I will also be sorting the wheat from the chaff, the cream from the milk, the sorins from the tibalts, and placing each creature into one of three categories. Commander material, strong, versatile enough to lead their own deck. One of the 99, a good card but better suited for supporting other commanders. And garbage. The category for legendaries clearly not designed for the best format in Magic. So, going in Wooburg order, let's look at the white legendaries. Terra Nika, Acrona Veteran, is a 3/3 human soldier with vigilance for 2 white mana and 1 generic mana. He reads, whenever Terra Nika, Acrona Veteran attacks, untap another target creature you control. Until the end of turn, that creature has base power and toughness 4/4 and gains indestructible. Hey, that art looks awfully familiar. So, on attack, we can make one of our creatures a 4/4 with indestructible. Now personally, I cannot see this card as a commander. It doesn't have the power to really impact the board and doesn't really offer anything to mono white as a general. However, in the 99 of a weenies deck or go wide strategy, being able to bolster one of your creatures can make quite a difference. But honestly, I'm stretching more than Mr. Fantastic here. Yep. Heart-wrenching art doesn't stop this card from being the first one in the garbage pile. On to the next. Looking at our first demigod, Daxos Blessed by the Sun is a legendary enchantment creature demigod for 2 white mana. He reads, Daxos' toughness is equal to your devotion to white, and whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield or dies, you gain 1 life. Daxos' power and toughness are normally 2-star. So with just his pretty recently resurrected self out on the battlefield, he's a 2/2 for 2. Also he comes with a delightful Soul Sister type effect. Now it's pretty obvious that Daxos can fit nicely into any EDH deck looking to gain life. For instance, a Loro Aegis Aesthetic, Call Over the Ghost Council, or Justani Selesnya's Voice, just to name a few. In fact, Daxos' static ability works really well with Justani. Since she cares about a creature's toughness, we'll be gaining at least 4 life, if not more, if we have other white creatures out to add to his devotion. Personally, I think he'd be a fine commander if you want a soul mister in the command zone, but I believe he'd be better as the 99 of a life gain deck. Helios Sun Crown is broken. Thank you very much, we can all go home now. Mono white is a broken commander. Thanks everyone. We did it, it's over, we can go home now. Okay, but seriously, Helios Sun Crown is a 5/5 legendary enchantment creature god for 2 generic mana and 1 white. He has indestructible and reads, as long as your devotion to white is less than 5, Helios isn't a creature. And whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or enchantment you control. And, for 1 generic mana and 1 white, another target creature you control gains lifelink until the end of turn. So Helios obviously has great synergies built right into him. You can give any creature you control lifelink, it deals damage, and then you can make a creature bigger with a +1/+1 counter. These counters can also, in a rather unique bit of wording, be placed on enchantments, including Helios himself when he isn't a creature. This means that winning with commander damage is definitely an option for this deck. Now Helios can obviously go into any deck that involves life gain, but he can also head his own commander deck rather comfortably, especially given that he creates an infinite combo with Walking Ballista. You give the artifact lifelink with Helios' ability, then remove 1 counter from the artifact to deal an opponent 1 damage, which then puts a counter back on the ballista. Rinse and repeat and machine gun down all of your opponent's life totals very happily, as early as turn 4. in mono white. Thanks, wizards. But yes, Helios is definitely in the commander category. Moving on to blue, we have Thrax, the Sudden Storm. For 3 generic mana and 2 blue, he is a 4/5 flyer with flash, and reads: spells you cast with converted mana cost 5 or higher cost 1 less to cast, and can't be countered. Okay. Is it just me, or does this blue giant seem very green? Uncounterable, cost reduction for big things. In fact, the only thing that lets it down from sliding into green fully is being a flyer. But looking at this card, this seems to be more of a teamer deck, such as Surak or Anima. Commander decks that are very creature heavy, and having that additional cost reduction and uncounterableness added could help, especially against any control heavy decks. And unless you want to make the single jankiest mono blue fatties deck with Thrax, then I can't really see him as a commander. So he can skirt into the 99, but only by the thinnest of hairs. The next blue legend we're going to look at is Rios Enraptured, a 2/3 legendary human for 2 generic mana and 1 blue. He reads: Rios doesn't untap during your untap step if you control a reflection, and when Rios enters the battlefield, create a 3/2 reflection token. Not even going to pretend here, garbage. No amount of reference to Greek mythology can make this card good, not even for Commander. Our next blue legend is our demigod herself, Caliph, beloved of the sea. She is a star 3 legendary enchantment creature for 1 generic mana and 2 blue. Her power is equal to your devotion to blue, and she reads: creatures and enchantments you control have spells your opponents cast that target this permanent cost 1 generic more to cast. Now my first thought on seeing this card is Voltron Devotion. No, stick with me. You play a bunch of auras which increase your devotion, which give Caliph higher power. Slap on an unblockable aura like Aqueous Form or Ether Tunnel and boom, one quick path to victory. Or if you're so inclined, Glistening Oil gives Caliph a +2 power boost and infect. Just lovely. I really like Caliph for a Voltron aura style commander. Having her power grow just through playing our permanents just means that she is a card that needs to be dealt with. And to deal with her, it's going to cost you 1 more mana. Not a deal breaker, but just slightly annoying. So yeah, I'm going to go with Commander for Caliph, if only because I don't really see her in the 99 of any other deck, and she definitely isn't garbage. And potentially adding to her devotion is our next card. Dasu Deep Dwelling is a 6/5 indestructible legendary enchantment god for 3 generic mana and 1 blue mana. She reads: if your devotion to blue is less than 5, then Dasu Deep Dwelling isn't a creature. And at the beginning of your end step, exile to 1 other target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. And for 3 generic mana and 1 blue, tap another target creature. In the last few sets, we've had creature cards that all have similar effects to powerful artifacts or enchantments stapled onto them. We've had Prime Speaker Birthing Pod and Mutant Training Grounds, so it's nice to see Wizards keeping this trend going with Dasu coming out of the Conjurer's Closet. If you want a mono blue ETB deck, then I can hardly think of a better commander than Dasu. After all, she has a staple of ETB decks strapped right onto her. After all, Agent of Treachery still exists, and who needs friends, right? But personally, she seems far better suited in the 99 of a deck, such as any of the usual suspects. Rune of the Hidden Realm, Yarok the Desecrated, or even Muldrotha, as casting her from your graveyard can counter your enchantment for turn as well. Moving on to the darker side of Magic, we have Amia, the Cacophony. A legendary creature harpy for 1 generic mana and 1 black. She is a 2/1 with flying and reads: at the beginning of your end step you may exile an enchantment card from your graveyard. If you do, create a 2/2 black zombie token. In Commander, I can think of a few ways to help exiling enchantments in the grave in black. One is the enchantment creatures of Theros, and the other is a few black sagas we have. Sagas will put themselves in the grave once their last effect is finished casting, while the enchantment creatures will end up dying by natural causes after long fulfilling lives. We can also go into a self-mill strategy with any type of dredge with Stinkweed, Imp, Dakamore Salvage, or cards like Stitcher's Supplier. But unless Ephemia is deliberately built around, I can't think of a deck to put her in. Most black enchantments you want to stay around, like in Nekazar or Oloro, and these enchantments are key to the deck strategies. And recursion decks like to, well, recur things, not exile them for a 2/2. If there is a deck for Ephemia, I can't think of it. She would make a super janky commander though. And I've condemned legendaries for significantly less than this, so into the garbage pile you go. But Timid, chosen from Death, is our Black Demigod, a 2-star legendary enchantment creature demigod for 2 black mana. He reads, Timid's toughness is equal to your devotion to black, and for 1 generic and 1 black, exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards. You gain 1 life for each creature card exiled this way. Black's attempt at Scavenging Ooze, well, leaves something to be desired. I can't see him as a commander straight off. There are far better life gain commanders in mono black. And with his toughness being dependent on your devotion, not his power, we can't even take him down a Voltron path. He'll be fine for an Allura or other life gain deck, since his ability means you can get life gain triggers at will, and he can serve as some good graveyard hate. But beyond that, it's a bit meh. But meh still gets you into the 99. And now we get to the god of the underworld himself. Erebos Bleak-Hearted is a legendary enchantment creature god for 3 generic mana and 1 black. He is a 5/6 with indestructible and reads, as long as your devotion to black is less than 5, Erebos isn't a creature. And whenever another creature you control dies, you may pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card. And, for 1 generic mana and 1 black, sacrifice another creature. Target creature gets -2/-1 until the end of turn. A lovely commander for aristocrat style decks, as long as you don't care about your life total. Being able to draw off of any creature you control dying is a fantastic static ability to have. His second ability is not great. It can ping off small creatures, but at the cost of a creature and a 2 mana, that doesn't seem like a good deal. Now they of course needed to add a mana cost to give him a sack ability, otherwise it would be broken. But the debuff is a nice addition. But make no mistake, it's the first ability that makes Erebos really valuable. But I think he'd be better situated in the 99 of a Merrin or Carador deck to add that little bit of card drawing value. Moving on to our aggressive coloured commanders, we have Annex, Hardened in the Forge. Annex is a star 3 legendary enchantment creature demigod for 1 generic mana and 2 red. He reads, Annex's power is equal to your devotion to red. And whenever Annex or another non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 red Satyr creature token with this creature can't block. If this creature had power 4 or greater, create 2 of those tokens instead. Now believe it or not, I really like this card. Not for any aggressive style deck, my word, by no means, but for the grindiest of Junn's sacrifice decks. Commanders like Kobold, Fae, Cursed King, Secuar, Deathkeeper, or any non-combo Prosh Sky Raider of Kerr deck. In any of these sacrifice-based decks, Annex can provide additional value when sacrificing your creatures. Giving a blanket effect to generate tokens can really help push any grindy deck further and further into the late game. The grindier, the better. As with Annex's tokens, we can now have additional Blood Artist or Butcher of Malakir triggers to really help mess with your opponents. Definitely a solid 99 card. As a commander, yeah, no, not seeing that, I'm afraid. And onto our red god. Theros Bronze Blooded is a 7/6 legendary creature god for 4 generic mana and 1 red. He is indestructible and reads, as long as your devotion to red is less than 5, Theros isn't a creature. And other creatures you control have haste, and 2 generic mana and 1 red, you may put a red creature card or an artifact creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So, blanket haste across all other creatures? Good. Not entirely sure why he couldn't give it to himself, but there we go. His stats are also pretty darn good, and his second ability is a lot like Sneak Attack. Oh wait, sorry, I read that wrong. His second ability is Sneak Attack. Perforos murdered Sneak Attack and is wearing Sneak Attack's skin in a very weird Leatherface tribute. In terms of commander playability, Perforos says to me he needs to hit hard to make the most of his ability. So Eldrazi are automatically on the guest list. Wait a minute. Red creatures only. Garbage. Pure garbage. Unadulterated garbage. Such a letdown. Now obviously I'm just kidding. In fact, red itself has a lot of fat creatures that could very well do with a quick run out from your hand. Ilhag the Razeboar, Hellkite Tyrant, and good old Balefire Dragon himself. But make no mistake, Perforos is a very high risk, high reward card. But with the right timings and fat creatures, I can see him being quite threatening. So, to quickly round up, is Perforos better than the original Perforos? No. Is he better as a commander or in the 99? Because no card with Sneak Attack on it is garbage. I think he inches himself into the commander category, but only by the whiskers of Helios' beard. And onto our last colour, we're going to start with a little something to freak out any arachnophobics in the audience. Sorry, Chris. Arista of the Endless Web is a legendary enchantment creature spider. She is a 3/5 with reach for 2 generic mana and 2 green. She reads, whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/2 green spider creature token with reach. In terms of design, I love her. If you want to remove her with a Path to Exile or a Murder, you're still left with a 1/2 with reach. Or if she's allowed to stick around for even a turn or two, then you start to slowly amass an army of delightful little spider babies. Sorry, I'll stop that now. However, still not putting her in the commander category. Why? Because Ishkanar exists. Yes, Arista definitely serves better in the 99 of a black-green spider deck headed by Ishkanar, who offers something Arista doesn't, a mana sink means of winning the game. Oh, and access to all those lovely black arachnids as well. Yep, Spider Tribal is coming along nicely. Just waiting for that Spider Lord, wizards. Just saying. The demigod for green is Renata, called to the hunt. Renata is a star 3 for 2 generic mana and 2 green. She reads, Renata's power is equal to your devotion to green, and each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Not even going to try and justify Renata as a commander because she fits way too well into other decks. Gave Guru of Spores, Pia and Toothy, Experiment, Kraj, and many more. Having all creatures enter with counters is such a strong ability, and is definitely better suited to these commanders than by herself. So yes, definitely in the 99. And our final commander for this video is our mono green god, Nyla Keen-Eyed. For 3 generic mana and 1 green, Nyla is a 5/6 legendary enchantment creature god. She reads, as long as your devotion to green is less than 5, Nyla isn't a creature. And creature spells you cast cost 1 generic less to cast. And for 2 generic mana and 1 green, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, you may put it into your graveyard. So, a lot to unpack here. Firstly, the flat cost reduction to all creature spells is great. If we're looking at Nyla as a commander, I would be tempted to build her with a much lower to the ground curve to really take advantage of that ability. Having Emerald Medallion on an indestructible commander is nothing to scoff at. And then her second ability can function as a pseudo card draw in mono green. We'll need to make sure we have some way of stacking our library with cards like Sensei's Divining Top, but with that, then there's just 3 mana draw a card in mono green on a stick. A 5/6 indestructible stick at that. Now we have to think, is Nyla good enough to head a deck, or would she be better than the 99 of a deck like Anima or Xenagos? Creature heavy decks where her cost reducing effect would be very helpful. Personally, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Commander. I just can't get over having a medallion in the command zone with late game draw potential. Maybe it's the latent elf player in me coming out, but that just seems way too good not to abuse. And that is the end of our video. Remember, the rest of the legendary creatures of Theros Beyond Death will be reviewed in our next non-gameplay video, which will be released in 2 weeks' time, so be sure to look out for that. In the meantime, let us know what you think in the comments below. What's your favourite commander of the new set, or do you disagree with some of my allocations? Whatever your thoughts, let us know in the comments below, and make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on Twitter @4commander and all. And as always, we'll see you next time.